first question I have is for you, Mr. Ferrer. As you know, the last time you were subpoenaed to testify before us was in November of 2015. You failed to show up. I have some questions for you about that. But first, just so everybody understands what happened, let me recap it. On October 1st, 2015, we subpoenaed you to produce documents and to appear in person to give testimony. The hearing was set for November 19th, 2015. Just 3 days before the hearing, on November 16th, your lawyers wrote us a letter and asked that you be excused, and for the first time revealed you had planned some international travel during our hearing. Senator McCaskill and I denied that request. You had been told plenty of times to make plans to appear on that date. Nevertheless, the day before the hearing, your lawyers wrote back, for the first time announced that you refused to show up. Without objection, the correspondence I've described below will become part of the record of this hearing. So my first question, Mr. Ferrer, is really a very simple one. Could you please tell the subcommittee precisely where you were and what you were doing during our hearing on November 19th, 2015?
Is this live? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yep. All right. After consultation with counsel, I declined to answer your question based on the rights provided by the First and Fifth Amendments.
Okay, I'll move on to something else. Mr. Ferrer, your company has repeatedly avoided liability by invoking Section 230 of the Communications Decency Act. That's been referenced a couple of times here this morning. This act protects websites who just post content created by third parties. But our report issued today and posted yesterday afternoon demonstrates conclusively that your reliance on this Communications Decency Act section has not been accurate. It's been a fraud, frankly, on the courts, on the victims you sued, who sued you, and on the public. Why do I say that? I say that because Backpage took an active hand in creating the ads on your site. As I talked about in my opening statement, you systematically deleted words, phrases, and images submitted by users that reveal that the posted ad is for an illegal transaction, not just prostitution, but also child sex trafficking. Documents show that you called the practice stripping out content from an ad. You even maintained an extensive strip term from ad list of words that we talked about earlier. Let's talk about one of the words on that list, Lolita. Lolita, of course, is the title of a book about a man who becomes sexually involved with a 12-year-old girl. With that in mind, I want to call your attention to page 156 of the appendix to the staff report. You should have that in front of you, page 156. This is an email you wrote to Mr. Padilla here on November 17th, 2010. Under the heading, Items I Intend to Implement, item 1C reads, and I quote, Lolita, ban or strip out. It is code for an underage girl, end quote. Let me read that again. It says, and I quote, Lolita, ban or strip out. It is code for an underage girl. Now let's look at page 158 of this same appendix. This is an email you received from Mr. Padilla explaining that he was preparing a spreadsheet of, and I quote, the most current list of coded terms set to be stripped out. We've got a copy of that spreadsheet, and it appears at appendix on page 161. So my question to you, Mr. Ferrer, in the document in front of you, you've highlighted one of the many words on that list. Can you read that highlighted word on that list?
After consultation with counsel, I declined to answer your question based on the rights provided by the First and Fifth Amendments.
Okay, in that case, I'll read it. The word is Lolita. There are some other words on that list, teenage, rape, young. Just so everyone understands, this is a document listing code words to be stripped out of advertisements. And the ads were then posted on the internet on Backpage anyway. So consistent with what we talked about in the opening statement, this was a way to edit these ads, but still take the payment and profit from the ads. Next question, Mr. Ferrer, if an underage girl is being sold for sex on Backpage and her pimp puts the word Lolita in the advertisement, stripping that term out of the ad doesn't magically change the girl's age, does it?
After consultation with counsel, I decline to answer your question based on the rights provided by the First and Fifth Amendments.
Okay, we respect your right not to answer, but let me answer for you. The answer is, of course, no. The fact that these terms were stripped out through this screening process does not mean that that girl's age was magically changed. In fact, what you have done, of course, is to cover up the fact that many underage girls were sold on your sites, making it harder for law enforcement, parents, and committed aid groups to find those kids who need help by stripping out those words. Let's move on to the next topic, and that's the ownership of the company. Mr. Ferrer, our report shows that you own Backpage.com through a series of Dutch shell companies. Backpage's tax advisor told our lawyers that structuring the transaction in that way has no tax advantages to you because all the money flows back to you here in the United States. So we wonder, why did you structure the company in that way? Was it structured in that way in order to obscure the fact that you were the buyer of the company?
After consultation with counsel, I decline to answer your question based on the rights provided by the First and Fifth Amendments.
Okay, Mr. Ferrer, is it your intention to invoke the Fifth Amendment privilege with respect to questions on any topic?
Yes.
Okay, the subcommittee, as I said, respects the assertion of the Fifth Amendment rights, and on that basis, we will be excusing you at the conclusion of this panel.